Welcome to Front Office Pros. Today, we're going to be talking about the 2021 NFL Draft Class and whether you should re-sign them or cut them loose in your Dynasty salary cap leagues.
Hike!
So for those of you who are out there that play in Dynasty and have a salary cap component in your league, this episode's for you because we're going to be talking about some of the main players that are on the chopping block because their contract is expired or basically they're about to be expired. They're on their fifth-year option because they're a first-round pick. These players have not received extensions. We're going to be talking about that in a future episode of players that were drafted in this class who have already received extensions and what do you do about these players. So first we're going to be talking about is running back Najee Harris of the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is a free agent. He did not receive an extension. And the Steelers decided to decline his fifth-year option as a former first-round pick. So, Joe, right now, we don't know what's going to happen with Najee Harris. We'll know in about a month and a half as to where he'll be playing. But for now, what's your mindset with Najee Harris? Are you intending on re-signing him? Are you thinking that you'd rather cut him loose and have him hit free agency? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think for Najee, I would be looking to actually resign him. I think he's despite people being disappointed in him. I mean, he's a guy that has rushed for 1,000 yards every year in his 4 seasons. Played 17 games in all 4 seasons as well. I think, and also I think a change of scenery, getting him out of Pittsburgh also might help. Maybe he goes to a team with a better offensive line, or if it's a team like Dallas, maybe he's actually able to just be the bell cow there. And he's also got some receiving ability. I know, since Roethlisberger left, the Pittsburgh Steelers necessarily haven't been utilizing him as much in that receiving game, but he does have that ability as well. He's not, you kind of know what you're going to get out of Najee. He's not real flashy, but he's a consistent guy. Should have decent touchdown numbers as well. So that's why I think just because he's a consistent player, you know what you're going to get. I think I would be willing to re-sign him, and then maybe you can go ahead and pair him with like a more of a flashy, like boom running back on your roster.
That surprises me, to be honest with you, because you've not been the biggest Najee fan. You've always said he's a few yards in a cloud of dust. So I felt like you'd be saying to let this guy, you've no interest in it and let him hit the market. You don't want to deal with him. So that surprises me.
Yeah, the problem with if you really want somebody, it's hard to let them hit the free agent market because whenever somebody does, there's another owner that's just willing to really pay up for these guys, and that's kind of the risk. Where if you got the ability to re-sign, running backs is also tough, and there's always seems to be teams that need running backs. So if you do put them out there, if they're halfway decent, they're going to be pretty high in free agency. So if you are interested in Najee Harris, I think it'd be beneficial to go ahead and re-sign him potentially at a discount.
Yeah, and to be fair, for this episode, do you even have the ability to re-sign? This guy may be,
right.
Where you have to have him hit the market, and then do you elect to sign him? I'm really on the fence about this one. I think I lean towards signing. If it wasn't for this running back draft class, then I would say, yeah, I would sign him. But because this class is probably one of the best class that we've seen in a very long time, that's what makes me a little bit nervous, because it's like, can he be the guy for an offense? I think he's capable, but will he get the opportunity? I'm not so sure he will. So that's the thing. It's like, do you really want to pay up for this guy to then be disappointed because he's in a shared backfield? So you're not wrong. He's got 1,000 yards every season. He's played every game, which is remarkable, considering the position. So, time will tell as far as what happens to him, but I guess I'd lean towards the sign, but I'm not confident.
Yeah, I mean, just because you signed Najee Harris, I don't think it takes you out of this, potential of going after one of these rookie running backs too. That's why I mean, you go ahead and sign Najee, and then maybe you pair him with one of these, rookie running backs that are more explosive and might have a higher boom or bust rate, but you got the consistent, fantasy production of a guy like Najee.
I guess when I think of running backs, and this is where maybe honestly the old philosophy, and maybe we need to reconsider. It might have been just an anomaly based on what happened with Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley and Josh Jacobs. But usually, like after that running back gets to the end of their first contract, it's usually like, okay, let me replace him with somebody younger. It's like that's just the thought I always have is let that guy go, then replace him with somebody, get a rookie in there, replace him with somebody younger. It's just kind of rinse, repeat. That's just my mentality, what I think about. But, for a guy like Najee, I think he could have a similar career to James Conner. Rejuvenated when he went to Arizona. He played really well. And now he's had other extensions there to continue to stay there. I could see him having a similar role.
Yeah, I'd agree. And you mentioned the Pittsburgh Steelers' exact strategy. They use up running backs for their 4-year contract and then say, see you later and bring in a new guy. And it is rinse and repeat.
Are you enjoying this episode so far? Well, if you are, subscribe to our YouTube channel, smash that like button, and hit the notification bell for upcoming videos. We do videos throughout the year, so you're not going to want to miss what we have in store. So next up, we're going to be talking about is not a free agent. He's playing on the 5th-year option, but he's also a running back. That's running back Travis Etienne of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Very interesting player. Very different than Najee Harris in the fact that he's dealt with the injury bug for a few of his seasons here. We've got a new head coach now with Liam Cohen. He's going to be playing on the 5th-year option, so he'll be in a contract year. So possibly, depending on how your salary cap leagues operate, he might have been probably a first-round pick in your league. You probably could have accepted the 5th-year option. You don't really have to worry about it. But nevertheless, we're here. We're going to be talking about it. So what are your thoughts at the end, Joe?
Yeah, it's an interesting one, just the fact that he's kind of had an up and down career. You mentioned the, injury issues. Even though he only missed, 2 games this past year. I mean, he was battling through some injuries. His volume went down, significantly from 2023 to this year as well. Looking at 267 carries all the way down to 150 this past year. But before that, he was over 1,000 yards as 2022 and 2023. Obviously had the monster 2023 season where he had 11 touchdowns as well. So it's just an interesting kind of decision, but I don't know.
You're on the fence.
Yeah, I think I might resign him. The tough thing is I think he could have a really good year this year with Liam Cohen. I'm curious if Cohen, is able to get what he did out of the Bucs backfield in Jacksonville. And I'm almost wondering if Etienne would be more of that Bucky Irving type of guy, in the Liam Cohen system. So I think the offense could look a little different. And I at least like him for this year. The tough part about resigning would he be in Jacksonville after this year? And I think that's the part that was making me kind of debate the decision of whether or not is it better to cut him or do you re-sign him thinking that he could have this, another resurgent year similar to like that 2023 season.
So I wouldn't sign him and I would let him hit the market. And if you don't have the option to re-sign or extend, however you do it in your leagues, I would let him hit the market and I would not be in the running for him. I think sometimes, and maybe owners don't think about it this way, but I certainly do. I think sometimes you have to think about it from a defensive standpoint, not always an offensive standpoint. What I mean by that is let Etienne hit the market. He's a bigger name. You've got maybe that buzz that you're talking about surrounding him as far as, oh, now Liam Cohen's there. You saw what he did with the Bucs, yada, yada, yada. So now I'm going to, pay the farm to get him. And then someone gets Etienne, but they get him for a massive contract. And then after a year or two, they're like, what was I thinking? Because now this is an albatross around my neck and I don't know what I'm going to do because the contract is just outrageous. Nobody wants them now because now you got dead weight essentially. So to me, I think about that, and that's where I actually would rather have Najee than Etienne, to be honest with you. Even though Etienne has been maybe the more explosive player and he's had stronger seasons of recent memory. But, I think they're going to involve Tank Bigsby. I don't think he's going away. I think it's going to be Bigsby and Etienne. And if that's the case, if volume matters to you, which it doesn't matter to me as much, but that means Etienne's got to be really explosive to really pay it off. And is he going to be as explosive as the guys like Achane and, Bucky Irving? Is he capable? I think so, but I don't know if I want to place that bet.
Yeah, I that is the tough part. That's the tough part about resigning him. I like him, with this possible 1 year at Jacksonville, but then after that, I'm not so sure. And you're probably might not be wrong. Maybe the better move is just to move on from him and give another owner the headache, and grab somebody in this draft class that is going to be really stacked.
Again, great. This is a rinse repeat strategy, right? Let him go, have someone pay a ton of money for him, and then I'm getting a top running back in the first round, second round, even, honestly, because it's so deep that I could replace Etienne and there'd be no problem. So next player we're going to be talking about, another guy who is not a free agent, but is a fifth-year option, and boy, is it a headache. And that's tight end Kyle Pitts at the Atlanta Falcons. Talked about him quite a bit, I'd say, of late, Joe. What are your thoughts on Kyle Pitts here? Again, more than likely, he was drafted in your first round. He's probably, if your league has fifth-year options, he's probably on it. So he's probably not in the mix of being a free agent, but, who knows? So what do you think? Are you signing him? Are you cutting him loose? Are you letting people spend up on him? Are you in the running to try to get this guy? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, no, I mean, similar to your Travis Etienne approach, I will gladly let somebody deal with the headache of Kyle Pitts, and I would not be looking to re-sign him or actively trying to get him on my team in free agency either. I get he's still 24. He's a young tight end. He's had a ton of buzz surrounding him. I think at some point you just got to say, like, enough is enough, and just this guy might not turn into what everyone thought he was going to be. And we do have a 4-year sample size, and his best year was that rookie year with Matt Ryan as his quarterback. I don't know. Maybe the only way I might be interested in this guy is if he somehow is traded from the Atlanta Falcons and maybe gets a change of scenery and gets a better offensive coordinator that might have a better plan for him. But as it currently sits, and he's on the Falcons, I'd be out on Kyle Pitts and just be looking to get rid of him.
So I will say this, and this is, I'm kind of giving a wishy-washy answer, but we'll roll with it. I would say you let him hit the market, but I would be in the negotiation process for him. So if everybody else in the league is like you, that says, I'm not touching this guy with a 10-foot pole, I want nothing to do with him, then I'm all in. I think he still has the potential. I'd be very interested. Now, if you have some owners who are just goo goo gaga for Kyle Pitts and will, be like, I gotta get this guy, and he's getting paid like massive amount of money, then I don't want him. So it's one of those things where, again, I don't think it has to be a yes or no. I think it can be, let me put some feelers out there. Let's see how things are progressing in the free agent market. And depending on how things are kind of coming along, if he's in the sweet spot, I'm interested in bringing him back. But if it's too much, then I'm going to let somebody else have him. It's a tough, to me, I find it a little bit tougher because I really do believe in his potential. He's still only 24 years old. I think he can, maybe it may, and it'll be interesting. We will know a little bit later. Well, I'll be curious. Depending on when free agency happens in your leagues, we'll have an idea as to what's happening in Atlanta. I don't think he's going to get extended. So if he's going to be playing on the fifth-year option only, then he's a free agent next year. And where would he go after that? I mean, he would be, I think, one of the more fascinating players to hit the market in recent years if he does hit the market. In the real NFL, I'm saying, in a year from now.
Why do you think he'd be so fascinating? Like, if he has another disappointing season, like, why would that be fascinating? Why would NFL teams actually want him?
Well, because we've seen in free agency, overspending happens all the time. So when it comes to, teams look at a potential player and see how we think they can be a part of the team. He may be a 1-year prove-it deal, which I think would be fascinating, or does he get massive money? I mean, I can't off the top of my head, but I think I've recalled. Look at a guy like even this is a long time ago. The Julius Thomas, right, former tight end of the Denver Broncos, right, who was a stud with Peyton Manning, ended up going crazy, signed a ton of money for Jacksonville, and basically disappeared, right? So I mean, it's like,
Yeah, but he had the production. I
I
mean,
know that he had the
never had
production,
the really
but he
production
still
outside the
has
rookie
the
year.
okay, but he still has the athleticism. He had the production in the rookie year. You just need one or two teams to think that they could, use this guy and it'll change. But it's 32 teams, Joe.
No, I know, I get that. I mean, I would be shocked if he would got like a massive amount of money from somebody.
Oh, I think he would.
Interesting.
So next play we're going to be talking about here is we talked about your Denver Broncos, Joe. So I'm going to bring up another Bronco player. That's going to be running back Javonte Williams. He is a free agent, so he was drafted in the second round. No fifth-year option that we have to contend with here. So question is, what do you do with him? Are you signing him? Are you cutting him loose? Or if he's in free agency, are you going to try to go get this guy, or are you going to let someone else try to sign him?
Yeah, I would gladly let somebody else try to sign Javonte Williams.
Oh boy.
I get the argument you're gonna make is how does anybody in the Sean Payton system, eat when they're getting one carry and getting taken off the field? But ever since he got injured in 2022, he's never been the same. His rookie season, he played all 17 games, 203 carries, 903 yards, 4 touchdowns. Also had 43 receptions for 316 yards and added 3 touchdown receptions in his rookie year as well. And he's never been able to get anywhere really close to that ever since that knee injury. And I truly think his lack of production is not necessarily the style of the offense the Broncos play. Broncos even have a pretty good offensive line. I really just have seen that explosiveness and everything that made him great in that rookie year go down a notch because of that injury that he did have. So I don't even think a change of scenery will really matter. To me, just Javonte isn't that same Javonte that we all saw flash and was really exciting and breaking all those tackles. And it just seems that, it shows in his average yards per carry. Like he was at 4.4 that rookie year. He was even at 4.3 in those 4 games before he had that, gruesome knee injury. But then since then, 2023, 3.6. This past year, 3.7. I just don't know. I think that's kind of the Javonte we're going to get from here on out.
So this is an interesting one because I'm actually in that predicament. So I have Javonte. He is a free agent for me. I will say this. I am looking at the market very closely and seeing what happens to him in real life. I can't say right now what I would do. If you had to say you have to give me an answer, I think I would cut him loose and I'd let him hit the market, and I really wouldn't go too crazy for him. I think he's a 1-year prove-it deal type of player. I think that's the type of contract he'll get in the NFL. If he does sign somewhere, he probably won't sign the first week. I could see him being kind of a second-week guy. I don't think he signs during the tampering period. I just think, unfortunately for him coming out and he's young still. He's only 24 years old.
Yeah.
I think just coming out of this, it's just tough because his draft class is so good. I mean, like I said, we've talked about it. I think it's as good as, the Christian McCaffrey, Leonard Fournette draft class, which had a ton of really impact players at the position. So I think he's going to have a tough time finding a job. So to me, unless there's a personal connection, whether it's a former running back coach or someone in the front office from the Broncos or now somewhere else, maybe he lands his feet somewhere. But I think I'd be more likely to let him go.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
So next player we're going to be talking about, and these next two honestly aren't going to be very glamorous compared to the other headliners we talked about here. But let's talk about quarterback Justin Fields, right? People maybe forget that he was not, and I actually had to remind myself that he was not a free agent. It's not that he decided to sign with the Steelers. He was traded from Chicago to Pittsburgh, and now he's a free agent. We've heard Art Rooney come out, the owner, kind of saying that he would like to have either Fields or Wilson back or both back with the team. Obviously, Fields was the starter, got demoted for Russell Wilson. So he's an intriguing one in the fact that there are a lot of quarterback needy teams out there. And does Fields get another crack at it? And that's really the question. Can he be a starting quarterback? Will he be a bridge guy? Can he have a resurgence like a Baker Mayfield did, like a Sam Darnold did? These two, those two guys were basically left for dead. Sam Darnold, he was shopped around a few times, ended up going to Minnesota and due to the McCarthy injury, he had a career year. Now he might be looking at big money. Same thing with Baker. That short stint with LA saved his career, was able to get some money over in Tampa. So do we see something like that with Justin Fields? Do people feel like he's very talented? Is he a bridge guy? Does he not even get a starter position? So what are your thoughts, Joe, on Justin Fields?
Yeah, I probably wouldn't re-sign him, but I think I would let him test the market, and depending on how much he's going for, I might be willing to, if it's cheap enough, might be willing to just take the shot on him and add him, just because he does still have that rushing upside. Depending on what type of offense he goes to, I actually think it could be interesting if he does return with the Steelers. They let him kind of do that running ability. I think having a guy like Arthur Smith would probably help him, and just the fact that they're in that run first system, him play off of play action, maybe get some simple throws for him to be able to hit. And
but he wouldn't be the start. But he didn't. He just ran packages towards the end, though. You want him to be
with
the
Russell
starter.
Wilson, but what if he's the starter? I don't think Russell Wilson's going to be back in Pittsburgh.
You don't think so?
No, I think there's a better chance that he goes to the Las Vegas Raiders and reunites with Pete Carroll and is the starting quarterback there, because
you really think so? Wow.
I think it's possible. Listen, unlike the running back position, this quarterback class is not very good. None of them's really that exciting. I don't think Pete Carroll is going to want a rookie quarterback, and I don't know if, how much Tom Brady says, how much say he seems to have in that organization right now. I don't know if he necessarily wants to go with the rookie. So I could see Russell Wilson going there. I know that's kind of the buzz in the hot takes right now. I truly think there could be some smoke, and maybe it turns into fire later.
Wow. You think? But with all you think they would reunite after all of the?
They said the relationship's fine, and he, like, Russell Wilson has gone to Seattle for Pete Carroll's birthdays and different parties that they've had. So they said they squashed any beef that they might have. So I think, the Raiders are going to be looking to add a veteran quarterback as a bridge quarterback. I don't know if that's Russell Wilson. Maybe it's a guy like Kirk Cousins, who's potentially on the market as well. So, but I think if, you mentioned Art Rooney wanting one of these two guys back, I think they might use a guy like Justin Fields as that bridge quarterback. And if he's cheap enough, I think you might be able to do that in your fantasy leagues as well. And we saw him even get 5 rushing touchdowns.
Just understand that logic, though. You're saying that the Steelers would want Wilson back because obviously they liked Wilson better than Fields. They would lose out on Wilson because Wilson would rather go back and reunite with Pete Carroll, which would then mean by default they would then bring Fields in and start Fields for the year.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And I mean, he had a fine record. They just thought Russell Wilson would bring him further, but I don't know if that's, I don't think the Steelers also like the way that the season ended with Russell Wilson and the disappointment that they had. So maybe they feel like, younger Justin Fields with a little bit more rushing upside, they could do a little bit more with them. Could get them further.
I think ultimately I probably would take the dart throw and, well, okay, let me say this. If you're in a super flex league or in our league as a deep 16-team quarterback league or 16-team league, which ultimately is 16 starters at quarterback, I would take the dart throw and sign him. I think he's a guy who could be a quality backup for you in your fantasy leagues. And if he does have the opportunity to start somewhere, we don't know where. It's not, like you said, it's not the strongest quarterback class. Aaron Rodgers, is he no longer there? Does he get to go? Does he go to the Jets, right? Does he go to even the Raiders? Could Justin Fields go to the Raiders, right? I mean, there's a lot of spots out there that I think Fields could go that would allow him to be a starter. And if he is a starter, I've never really been that convinced he's a great player. He's very explosive with his legs. But who knows? I mean, we've seen it before with Darnold and Baker Mayfield. I mean, if they can go to the right spot, maybe Fields can really turn into something.
Yeah, I mean, the thing of it is, he's never been the greatest NFL quarterback, but he's been a fine fantasy quarterback at time with good matchups. I know the Jets are potentially interested in him if he doesn't go back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, but I think that's where I might prefer him to stay with the Steelers and have another year of continuity in that Arthur Smith system with the Steelers.
So last what we're going to be talking about here is wide receiver Elijah Moore of the Cleveland Browns. Talented player coming out of Ole Miss, former second-round pick. The Jets ended up trading him to Cleveland. Joey's had some concussion issues. Some have wondered whether it would kind of cause him to not even be in the league for very much longer. What are your thoughts here on Elijah Moore?
Yeah, he's tough because he's a guy that I was interested in when he first went to Cleveland. Just thought, moving out of that situation with the Jets, going to Cleveland, maybe something would improve there. But then obviously I also had higher hopes for the Deshaun Watson experience there in Cleveland as well. That also hasn't gone, anything close to what people thought was going to happen. It's been an absolute dumpster fire there. But with Elijah Moore, I mean, he is a young player. I wouldn't be re-signing him. I'd definitely let him hit the market. I honestly, I don't even know if I'd be that interested in adding him in free agency, even if he was that cheap and taking a dart throw on him. You mentioned the, injury concerns potentially there, but just outside of that, I mean, although he's played 17 games in back-to-back seasons.
I saw that. Yeah, I was a little surprised by that.
Yeah, I mean, he has back-to-back seasons also with over 100 targets, but he's only come up with, 59 and 61 receptions. And then he's only got, 3 touchdowns over the last 2 seasons with the Cleveland Browns as well. So I don't know. I had higher hopes from him, thought from a skill set, and thought, with his different ability in the slot that he might be better. But maybe it's just a case of Elijah Moore just isn't the player that we all thought he was coming out of college.
I think I would sign him, actually. I think that, talk about, and no offense out there, I'm just looking at the facts, okay? The Jets and the Browns, as far as organizations go of recent memory, have been absolute disasters. Yeah. So, I mean, if you think about a player, where is a player going to thrive? And a guy who is and we're not talking about a guy like Garrett Wilson. We're not talking about a guy like an established person like Amari Cooper. Now, Jerry Jeudy, right? He was a guy who didn't really succeed in Denver, showed up in Cleveland, actually balled out, pretty well there for that stretch while Winston was at quarterback. So I just feel like Moore will get another shot. And there are some teams that just are really needy at receiver. And I think depending on where he goes, and if he could find an offensive system that can really maximize his talent and what he's good at, I don't know. To me, I think he's worth a flyer. I really do. And here's the thing. Because he hasn't done all that much, I don't think it'll cost you all that much to sign him, to be honest with you. So I wouldn't sign him to a long-term contract. I'll tell you that right now. I'd be looking to do like a prove-it deal. I'm not looking to do that. But I'd say, hey, why not?
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, I don't think he'd garner that much. I think you're right. You'd get him, fairly cheap. And I guess it doesn't hurt to do the 1 year. We'll see it. I don't know. I just maybe this is just the type of player he is. I don't know if anything's going to really change. And there could also just be more intriguing guys out there that I'd rather have on my roster.
So that does it for this episode. We talked about a few players who were in the 2021 NFL draft class who are on the cusp of being a free agent for the first time, or maybe they're on a 5th-year option, but maybe in your league they're not. So we want to talk about all those players and think about whether you should sign them or cut them or let someone else sign them. Thank you so much for tuning in, and until next time.